Right now, press freedom is an illusion, and we are forced to test it with every story because there's a gun pointed at you. And if you step outside the lines, you get targeted.
Rappler, your articles are ripe with innuendos and pregnant with falsity.
The greatest threat to this country is the entire government, and the chief conductor of the attacks is President Duterte himself.
Ikaw, ABS-CBN, I will see to it that you're out.
The press and the government have never gotten along, no matter which president that is. We make each other's lives difficult because it is our job to check on you.
It is a fraught environment. This is also morally and psychologically complicated and challenging for individual journalists and for news organizations as well.
So I think press freedom in the Philippines right now is broken.
In 2019, arrested twice in 5 weeks, 8 criminal cases. The maximum penalty of all of these is almost 100 years in prison.
In the beginning, media were the gatekeepers of information. I'm Karen Davila giving you the head start for the day. And social media sounded like a good thing until it was weaponized to a certain agenda.
Gamitin po natin ang Facebook!
And then the elections came, 2016, and then we saw that it was going to be a problem for us. And it was just vitriol thrown all over.
These are the two main groups and leaders that we started calling out in 2016. Rodrigo Duterte. And the other man is a young gentleman, Mark Zuckerberg, and Facebook. Facebook, for example, is a platform where lies laced with anger and hate spread faster and further than facts.
I would wake up to hundreds of hate messages every day.
I am just one of the many journalists that have been a victim of trolling. Reputation destroyed, reputation maligned. When journalists do interviews, you make the effort to study, prepare, and contextualize information that goes out into the public. When it goes out into Facebook, it's used as clickbait. It's chopped into different pieces and used by different political parties or different parties for their own agenda, either to push a narrative or to push a political candidate. And I'm seeing it now as we move towards the elections.
These are psychological attacks. It's a new weapon against journalists.
They launch an orchestrated campaign to tear apart media's reputation and the reputation of journalists by what? Hurling around terms like prostitutes, bayaran, dilawan, komunista, everything.
Ano po yung bagong instruction?
Ang allowed lang po sa inyo, ma'am, hanggang NEP lang po. Yun na.
Hanggang NEP?
Yes, ma'am.
So, hindi ako pwede mag-cover smite mamaya sa Malacanang? Ganun po ba
NEP
yun?
lang po, ma'am. Yun lang po ang huling instruction po.
Right after the ban, I was more of angry because I felt that there were so many violations that happened, that there was no forewarning, nobody explained sufficiently the grounds for why I was banned. I would get like Twitter tags where people would threaten me with rape. So what the ban did was force me to be more resourceful and more creative in how I report. So the fact that I'm still able to report pretty closely the events in Malacanang is vindicating in a way, and it also makes me feel that it can be done and it shouldn't be an excuse to stop doing your job.
It's often said that they want a free press, but do they want a free press enough? Even if they don't want what a free press is saying, will you protect a free press even if the free press is saying something that goes against your own interest? The interest of a free press is the truth. And as I've said, it's not always perfect.
What we do is We struggle against fear. We work through fear. We live through fear. We live in fear. But we transcend fear every day.
This is ABS-CBN Corporation, Channel 2, in the service of the Filipino. Now signing off.
It was confused silence, but you could also feel the anger. So it just felt like people were milling around, whispering in hushed tones, not admitting that we were going dark.
We'll go to the NBI.
What's happening to Rapper, what's happening to the Inquirer, what's happening to ABS-CBN are no longer isolated incidents. So we're not making this up in our heads. The threat, the blow, and the jubilation are all out on record. It sends shivers down our spine. And if this is not something that affects us, and we say so, we would be lying.
I think, frankly, the hardest effect on media networks that are open is self-censorship. And that's tragic.
There's already a feeling of fear in everyone that they're gonna check themselves. Oh, if I write this headline in this way, maybe I will get fired. So just that small needling doubt in a reporter's mind, for me already means he's not free.
Right now, after we push it out there, we publish something, we post something, we're just on the edge of our seats, waiting for reactions that are maybe a little violent or maybe a little disproportionate, a lot disproportionate, and we do not deserve that.
The Philippine media, I believe, will only be ready for it if our institutions are so strong that it feels it's protected under the democratic space. As long as media feels it's dependent on who sits in Malacanang, it will always be under threat.
Sabi niyo po, you cannot be a president if you cannot kill. Papatay ba kayo kung kayo'y Pangulo?
It's not the actual. Takot kang mamatay, takot kang pumatay, huwag kang magpresidente.
Journalists should be, frankly, fearless in doing their jobs and yet be able to self-reflect that they're doing it properly with the right intentions.
Hanggat hindi pa nabubuksan ang daan papunta rito sa mga isolated na barangay ng bayan ng Bagao, ito ang pinaka-lifeline nila. Ito lang ang natatanging pinagkukunan nila ngayon ng pagkain.
I think it's time to double down and fight. It's time to bring out the bravest stories that we can come up with. The most critical, incisive, precise journalism that we can. Keep on crying out, keep on calling out, to keep on demanding. When people speak as a crowd, speak as a chorus, we are able to bring their message out there.
It's important to push back because if you don't, people will think the entire media can be manipulated and can be intimidated.
To back off, to keep quiet, to keep silent, is to turn this country into a giant graveyard where only the mighty and the powerful and the corrupt will rule the earth.
And if Filipino journalists, if we don't find our way to finding strength together, we will be knocked off one by one. So we will hold the line. That's what it requires.